Well, I'm with Beth Kanter here and with Steve Bridger after a terrific presentation by Beth about the networked non-profit at the Guardian offices here and contributions from the floor. So briefly, Beth, what's a networked non-profit compared with a not networked non-profit?
Okay, it's an organization that is simple, agile, and transparent, that allows insiders to get out and outsiders to get in, and they use social media to spread and enhance their mission.
And what's the kind of essence of that? You were talking, I think, about transparency and simplicity.
Yes, they embrace these common concepts of transparency, building relationships, listening, trust through transparency, having a social culture, and understanding how networks work. All of these kind of mind shifts that are really different from the way that some traditional nonprofits do their work.
And the benefits in doing that?
Well, they can spread their effectiveness more efficiently.
And they get all of their supporters engaged in
exactly.
things. Yeah?
You know, working in a way where your organization is doing everything and has complete control over everything, that's exhausting. And it's expensive. And it's slow. And working in a networked way sort of opens things up and keeps us from that scarcity mentality to opening up to the abundance of networks.
And I know, Steve, you've been having a lot of chats with Beth, helping organise the little tour here. How much of that resonates with what's happening in the UK?
It resonates a lot, David. I mean, I work mainly with the big charities in the UK, and a lot of them have been around for 50 years, 100 years, some of them even 150 years. And they've got an amazing history, they do amazing things, but if they don't make some changes, that history is really just baggage. And, you know, I'm seeing the growing pains, or new growing pains, of these organisations that have been around for a long time, playing with social media without really becoming truly social organisations, which I think is the next step, the logical next step.
And without playing too much on the negative, what are the barriers to actually moving into this wonderful network world?
Well, I think, I'm going to be provocative and say one of the barriers, I think, is people not really being willing to, or recruiting in their own image, silos recruiting their own image, or perhaps not recruiting someone better than them, or recruiting people from a certain professionalism. And I think there needs to be much more connection between, fundraisers, communications people, program delivery people, maybe even getting all to sit around the one desk, as you would perhaps in a really small non-profit. Maybe experiment with something like that, hot desk.
Yes.
And I think you gave us a couple of examples, Beth, of where this is working. I love the one about the surf riders, was it?
Yes. Surf Riders is a global network of activists who care about beaches and oceans. And they are a true social organization, a true network nonprofit, because they've just let go of control in a way that allows the network to survive and thrive and help them with their mission.
And what was that line about the logo? That was a good one.
Oh, that was, if you look for them on Facebook, you'll see how all their chapters have just remade their logo. And even though initially their legal department didn't like that too much, when they need to mobilize online petitions, they can get something like 50,000 signatures in 24 hours. So it really doesn't really matter what people do with the logo if they feel like they own their mission and are willing to spread it to others.
Yeah. So if you want to involve people, give it away. Yeah, Steve,
well,
you seeing that?
A lot of organisations have invested heavily in their brand, in pixels, but increasingly your brand is going to be this dialogue you have with your supporters, and including staff. So part of your brand, I think, is the aggregate of all your people to create kind of a social voice for your organisation. But that's back to this culture thing again. It's tricky for a lot of organisations.
So what does that brand look like if it gets spread around and owned and developed by a whole range of different interests? Where does it come up? How will people be able to point to it, as it were?
I think the key thing for charities now is to accept all of that's going to go on, and then what's the value add? Because there's the potential now for people to bypass organisations, these free agent people.
Right.
So what is it? So the charity has to think, well, what do we add?
Right. Where are we bringing value?
Yeah.
Because they're going to organise without you.
Because you were talking, one of you was talking about charities thinking that they own the cause, but they don't.
No, they don't. It's a marketplace. It used to be 30 years ago, we'd write our check and get in the U.S., we get our calendar, and we were introduced to the cause through the brand and through the organization. But now, these days, it's a marketplace mentality. I care about the environment. It's not that I'm looking for a particular organization that does that work. And I encounter them in places like Facebook or social networks. And I don't have that kind of, I'm not in love with that logo or that loyal to it.
And,
unless they've made a relationship with me.
And moving to this network world involves a lot of change, and you talked about the role of free agents in that. What's a free agent?
A free agent is sometimes mostly young people, sometimes older people who are passionate about a social cause, and they're able to do the work of a traditional nonprofit outside of the institutional walls. So they can mobilize, they can fundraise, they can educate. And they have literally built, like you, with this camera, have built a social movement in the palm of their hands.
And we've got social agents over here. I think we had some other names thrown around for them.
Yeah, I think there are less of them, though. But I just think the charity needs to think of its walls as being walls that people can step over, is the way I like
to. Or see-through.
Yeah, the porous membrane. And actually, a lot of the work I do is around that porous membrane, with community managers, of which there needs to be a lot more of. And that's where, the periphery is the new centre, really.
Yeah.
The exciting part of, I think, what organisations do, where you get innovation. You very rarely get it from the centre.
And I think the term you used was sponges versus fortresses.
Yes, yeah. Organizations to be more like sponges that can allow, insiders to get in and outsiders to get. Oh, I just messed that up. I've seen the jet lag. Insiders to get out and outsiders to get in, so they can take in the good stuff and expel the bad quickly.
Are you going to venture a proportion of sponges versus fortresses that we're seeing in the UK at the moment? More or?
There's a long way to go. But I'm optimistic.
It's a long way to go in the US as well. It takes time.
Yeah.
Change takes time.
And there is no alternative.
Yeah.
Okay.